something happened inside Chloe's locker that nobody in Auradon was ready for. Hazel Hook, the girl who never backs down from anything, was suddenly the size of a spoon, trapped in a locker, and completely furious about it. And the reason she got that way traces straight back to Wonderland, a place that fans already know is never as fun as it looks. But here's where it gets interesting. The only way to fix Hazel meant Pink had to do something she swore she would never do. She had to break into Fairy Godmother's most guarded secret. A princess is supposed to keep secrets, not steal them. So why did Pink risk everything for Hazel? And what was really hiding behind that door only Pink knew how to open? It all started with a bite of the wrong cookie. Hazel had been in Wonderland, a place that looks like a fairy tale but works more like a trap, and everyone who has followed her story knows that nothing there is simple. She ate something without knowing what it was going to do to her, and by the time she realized her mistake, she was already shrinking. Not a little, not enough to laugh off. She went from her normal size to something so small she could fit inside a locker without anyone noticing she was even there. And the only cookie that could undo it was already gone, finished off back in Wonderland with nothing left to bring home. That meant Hazel was stuck, tiny, trapped, and stuck listening to her own voice come out high and squeaky every time she talked. For someone like Hazel, who is used to being the loudest person in any room, this was more than embarrassing. It was terrifying. Chloe was the first to find her, and her first instinct was not exactly reassuring. She joked about keeping Hazel this way, carrying her around like some kind of tiny, angry pet. It sounds funny on the surface, but there's something worth noticing here. Chloe is Cinderella's daughter, and every fan of this world knows that Cinderella's story runs through magic, glass slippers, and a fairy godmother who fixes the impossible. So, when Chloe decided enough was enough and went to get real help, it was obvious where this was heading. She wasn't going to knock on just anyone's door. She went straight to Pink, and that decision changed everything. Pink is not the type of character anyone expects to break rules. She has spent her whole story being the composed one, the well-mannered one, the princess who follows the script written for her. But when Chloe explained the situation, Pink didn't hesitate the way people might expect. She said something that fans are going to replay over and over. She brought up her own mother's story, the pumpkin carriage, the magic that changed everything overnight. And then she said 4 words that changed the entire tone of this episode. Follow me. That is not something the old Pink would say. That is someone who already knows exactly where to go and exactly what she's about to risk. What Pink led them to wasn't just some spare room or forgotten drawer. It was a hidden safe, tucked away and protected, the kind of place that only exists because something inside it matters enough to hide. The mechanism that opened it wasn't ordinary either. Cogs turning, metal clicking into place, like the safe itself was alive with old magic. And what fans need to sit with is this. Pink knew this safe existed. She knew how to open it. A princess who claims she has no secrets clearly has been holding onto one for a very long time. And Hazel, even shrunk down to almost nothing, was sharp enough to notice it immediately. She didn't hold back either, comparing Pink's sudden rule-breaking to spending too much time around Red, whose entire reputation is built on going against the rules everyone else follows. That comparison alone tells you something. If Hazel is already connecting Pink to Red's rebellious streak, this is not a one-time slip. This might be the start of Pink stepping into a version of herself nobody has seen yet. Then Pink said something that changes the whole meaning of what just happened. She called it borrowing, not stealing, and followed it with a line that hits harder than it should for a kids' show. Sometimes you gotta get your hands dirty to do the right thing. That is not a princess line. That is someone rewriting her own rules in real time because the situation demanded it. And right after, she made both Chloe and Hazel promise never to repeat what they just saw, sealing it with the same phrase twice. A princess never spills her secrets. Saying it once could be a joke. Saying it twice, right after opening a hidden safe she clearly built or protected herself, sounds like something fans are going to be theorizing about for a long time. What else has Pink been hiding? And how long has she been quietly capable of things nobody expected from her? The moment the safe finally clicked open, everything about this scene shifted from playful to something much heavier. Fans who have been following Pink's arc from the very beginning know that she has always been framed as the safe one, the character who plays by the rules while everyone else around her breaks them. But watching her stand in front of that hidden compartment, calm and completely in control, tells a different story. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't second-guessing herself. She moved like someone who had rehearsed this exact moment before, and that alone should make fans pause. How many times has Pink opened this safe without anyone knowing? And more importantly, why does a princess need a hidden safe with a magical mechanism in the first place? Inside was the wand. Not just any wand, but the very tool tied directly to Fairy Godmother's magic. The same magic responsible for turning pumpkins into carriages and mice into horses. For Pink to know exactly where this was kept, and exactly how to trigger the mechanism protecting it, suggests a connection to Fairy Godmother that goes beyond the surface level family-friend dynamic fans have assumed until now. This is someone who has either been trained, trusted, or quietly involved in the magic side of Auradon far more than the show has let on. And if that's true, then everything about Pink's perfect princess reputation might be a performance, a role she plays in public while something much more capable sits underneath it. Hazel, even in her tiny, squeaky voice state, couldn't resist commenting on what she was seeing. She teased Pink for supposedly having no life outside of diary entries about boys, calling her private thoughts a snooze fest. It's a throwaway joke on the surface, the kind of teasing friends do to each other constantly. But there's a layer underneath it worth paying attention to. Hazel assumed Pink's diary was boring, ordinary, filled with nothing more than schoolgirl crushes. Yet here Pink was, holding a legendary magical wand like it was something she handled all the time. The contrast between what Hazel expected from Pink and what Pink actually turned out to be capable of is exactly the kind of gap this franchise loves to build long-term theories around. What else is hiding in that diary that nobody has actually read? And why does Pink let everyone believe she's this simple, harmless character when she's clearly holding on to secrets heavy enough to require a hidden safe? Then came the moment fans have been waiting for since Hazel first shrank. Pink raised the wand, and for a brief second, there was real tension in the scene. This wasn't a rehearsed trick or a classroom assignment. This was Pink using real magic, magic tied to one of the most powerful figures in this entire universe to fix a mistake that wasn't even hers to fix. Hazel, half panicked and half relieved, practically begged to be changed back immediately, and even joked about just taking the wand and running instead of trusting Pink to get it right. That line matters more than it seems. Hazel, someone raised around villains and used to controlling every situation herself, was forced into a position where she had no choice but to trust someone else's magic. For a character built around control and confidence, that kind of vulnerability is rare, and the show clearly wanted fans to notice it. The spell itself? Selaga Undo, hit with a burst of dramatic energy, cogs practically freezing in the air as the magic worked. And it did work, at least partially. Hazel's body returned to its normal size almost instantly, and for a moment, everything seemed resolved. She let out a relieved sigh, finally back to herself. Finally done with the humiliation of being pocket-sized in her own school. But then came the twist that fans are going to be replaying for a while. Her voice never changed back. She was standing there, full-sized again, but still speaking in that same high-pitched, squeaky tone from before. The spell only did half its job, and that detail alone raises a huge question fans need to sit with. Was this a mistake? Or was it something else entirely? Magic in this universe rarely fails by accident, especially not magic tied to something as powerful as Fairy Godmother's wand. Pink's reaction is where things get even more interesting. Instead of panicking or immediately trying to fix the mistake, she seemed almost amused, calling it a bibbidi-bobbidi bummer before laughing and running off, leaving Hazel there with a voice that clearly wasn't hers. On the surface, it plays as a lighthearted comedic beat, the kind of joke this franchise uses to end scenes on a fun note. But look closer at the pattern building here. Pink, who has already been shown to have hidden knowledge of magic far beyond what anyone expected, casually leaves a spell incomplete and walks away laughing instead of immediately correcting it. If Pink truly is as skilled with magic as this scene suggests, an incomplete spell isn't a simple mistake. It's either a limitation in her control that she doesn't want anyone to notice, or something intentional that she's choosing not to explain. This detail opens up a much bigger question about where this storyline could be heading. If Pink genuinely lacks full control over serious magic, that could set up a future conflict where her overconfidence backfires in a much bigger, more dangerous situation. It's a common pattern in this kind of storytelling. A character dabbles in something powerful, gets away with it in a low-stakes moment, and starts believing they've got it handled, right before something forces them to realize they don't. Hazel's unshrunk body but shrunk voice could be exactly that kind of warning sign. a small taste of what happens when Pink pushes magic further than she's ready for. On the other hand, if this was intentional, the implications shift into a completely different direction. Maybe Pink wanted to leave a small piece of the spell unfinished, either as a joke between friends or as a subtle way of maintaining some kind of leverage over Hazel. It sounds unlikely for the sweet princess version of Pink fans think they know, but this episode has already proven that version might not be the full picture. A character willing to break into a hidden safe, borrow one of the most powerful magical items in the kingdom, and lie about having secrets twice in one conversation is not someone who does things purely by accident. And then there's Hazel's reaction to all of this, which deserves just as much attention as Pink's. Instead of getting angry or demanding an immediate fix, Hazel simply groaned about hating Wonderland, chasing after Pink with her tiny squeaky voice trailing behind her. That response says a lot about how much trust already exists between these two characters, even with everything strange happening around them. Hazel isn't furious. She isn't scared. She's annoyed, the way someone gets annoyed with a friend who keeps getting them into weird situations, not the way someone reacts to a stranger using dangerous magic carelessly. That familiarity hints that whatever is really going on with Pink and this hidden magical ability, Hazel might already know more about it than she's letting on. Or she trusts Pink enough not to question it out loud, at least not yet. Zooming out from this single scene, the bigger picture becomes even more interesting. This episode wasn't really about Hazel getting shrunk in Wonderland. That was just the trigger. The real story here is about Pink, and everything fans thought they understood about her character being quietly rewritten in real time. A hidden safe. A wand she clearly knows how to access. A spell she either couldn't fully control or chose not to finish. 2 references to secrets she swears she doesn't have. All of this in a single short scene is not filler content. This is the kind of setup that shows use when they're planting seeds for a much bigger reveal later in the season, and fans who catch these details early are usually the ones who end up saying, "I knew something was off about her," once the full truth comes out. If there's one thing this franchise has trained its fans to do, it's pay attention to the small, throwaway lines that seem like nothing in the moment, but end up meaning everything later. And there's a line from this exact scene that fans have not fully unpacked yet. Chloe's comment about the pumpkin carriage. When Pink brought up her mother's story to justify going through with this plan, it wasn't just a random reference to add some charm to the scene. Cinderella's carriage is one of the most iconic pieces of magic in this entire universe. A transformation so powerful, it changed the direction of an entire life in one night. For Pink to compare Hazel's shrinking situation to that story means she sees this moment as something much bigger than a simple prank gone wrong. She's treating it with the same weight as a life-changing event. And that's not something you do unless you already understand exactly how serious real magic can be. This ties directly into something else worth examining, which is how naturally everyone in this scene accepted Pink's sudden change in behavior. Nobody stopped to ask why she knew about a hidden safe. Nobody questioned how she knew the exact mechanism to open it. Chloe, despite being the one who insisted on finding a solution in the first place, didn't blink twice when Pink casually revealed this side of herself. That kind of unquestioning trust usually means one of 2 things in a story like this. Either these characters already have a level of familiarity with each other's secrets that hasn't been shown to the audience yet, or the writers are deliberately keeping the reactor